14. For the Squeers, every day became the same way, with a pre-dawn run. Today was out through Deadman's Gate for a lap around the hill, then back for weapons training. Last boy went without breakfast. Thorn ran along Clef. He wasn't sure how the pair of them had ended up together. It was probably because they were strangers in Gehenna and no one knew what to make of them. Thorn wished Clef hadn't come up to him at the gate. He didn't have anything in common with him. But he was stuck with him, and there was nothing he could do about it. And stuck was right. The Sultan boys plowed unsteadily through the mud, gasping with each breath. He had already fallen once, face first, in his rich red-colored robes and dainty embroidered shoes. He wasn't exactly dressed for running. At least he had dumped his rings and all of his other jewelry. He probably doesn't want to be weighed down any more than he has to be. You're not helping yourself wearing that. Can't you borrow some clothes from one of the Squeers? I belong to House de Jing. I dress in red. Right, now you're dressed in mud, Thorn sighed. Here, let me help. Clef gave Thorn a wary, grateful smile and grabbed his hand. Between Thorn pulling and Clef crawling, they managed to get him out of the quagmire of the witch. I'm sure they let you out, said Thorn. Ain't someone worried you're going to run off? Of course not. They gave me word not to attempt to escape. Thorn laughed. You're joking, right? Clef stared at him so angrily. Thorn worried he was going to catch fire. You're not joking. When a noble keeps his words, he keeps it, said Clef with a huff. It's a matter of honor. Thorn shook his head in amazement. Nobles and their stupid rules. What are you doing out here anyway? Nobles don't need to run. You've got horses. My dad told me the best horses in the New Kingdom are the fire breed from the Sultan. He's right, said Clef. But we also have flying carpets. Much more comfortable. Flying carpets? Really? Clef laughed, or maybe he was having a heart attack. Thorn wasn't totally sure. The boy's face was a dangerous dark red. Eventually, Clef started breathing normally. No, Thorn. Used to, but all I've got back home is a cushion that floats a foot or so off the ground. Back home. Thorn saw the brightness of Clef's eyes when he spoke about it. Maybe he and his nobles weren't so different after all. This one was Gabriel's idea. Not that he'd take part himself. He thought it'll be funny, Clef spat. There's nothing he'd like better to see me carried back on a stretcher, but I'm not going to give him the satisfaction. Funny, I don't see Gabriel here, nor any of his cronies. He may be one idiot, but he's not stupid. Gabriel's probably sitting by a warm fire tucked into his breakfast. That reminds me, if we want our own breakfast, we better get going. There are 2 hills beyond Deadman's Gate. Thorn hadn't noticed them when he had arrived last night. Which one do we go round? Clef panted, pointed to the western one. Lamentation Hill. I've never seen a place so grim. The trees are twisted like the bones of old men. The local picnic spot, is it? It's where they execute criminals, Thorn. And what's the other one called? Let me guess. Really Sad Hill? No, that's the City of Silence. It's the Shadows family graveyard. Now that the mist was clearing, Thorn saw that the crest was covered with tombs, and the slopes were lined with countless graves. It's bigger than Castle Gloom. The Shadows have been here for thousands of years, Clef explained. It's no wonder, then, and that the home of the dead is greater than that of the living. Nice place, Gehenna. Massive graveyard to the left and executioner ground to the right. Thorn peered out a row of poles. What's on top of those? Birds? Heads. Oh. He wasn't shocked. Heads on spikes were a pretty common sight in some places. He counted 5 in all. Whose? The brigades who killed Lily's father, Clef replied. What I heard is that Lord Shadow, his wife, and his son had gone to sign a treaty with the Solars. The Black Fort Truce, they called it. It is the first time that the 2 houses have had peace in 100 years or so. Lily's brother was going to marry one of the Duke's 12 daughters. But I thought the Duke and Lord Shadow hated each other. Clef tapped Thorn's forehead. Think about it. The Duke's grandchild will one day be ruler of Gehenna. We belong to ancient families. Thorn, we take the long view. Then what happened? The deal was done, and Lord Iblis, Lady Salome, and their son, Daint, were on the way back when they were ambushed. They were robbed and killed. The brigades even burnt the bodies, hoping that no one will recognize them. Where's Lady Shadow during all this? Back here. The official line is that she was ill that day. Clef winked at him. But I heard the true story from her maid, Mary. Lily had a fight with her father earlier that week, so he grounded her. Why does that not surprise me? Thorn had only met her last night, but there was a stubborn look in those gray eyes of hers. Still, that argument saved her life, didn't it? So how did the heads end up on them poles? I have thought the Brigades will have made themselves pretty scarred after that, what they have done. What do you think? Tyburn found them. That man will chase you to the very gates of hell if he had to. The Brigade still had Lady Salome's jewelry on them. Tyburn killed 5, but 1 got away. The executioner's been searching for him ever since. Thorn understood. His village, Stour, suffered bandits like most places, and they lost the occasional chicken or sheep. Men got desperate. But stealing was one thing, murder something else. Cliff glanced back at the ragtag bunch of boys approaching. Let's go on. We don't want to be last. They weren't. Last was a boy named Petter. Old Colm, the weapons master, stopped out, dragging him along. Despite his wooden leg, Old Colm moved fast. I wasn't late, sir, I wasn't, Peter complained. Old Colm shoved the boy down the steps into the courtyard. No food and water for this one today. Maybe it'll be quicker with an empty stomach. The squares lined up in the courtyard of Deadman's Gate. The mud was still with frost, and Thorn's breath came out as a big white cloud. Thorn noticed how the others looked his way. What are they so interested in? He muttered. Cliff mimicked something smack in his face. They've heard what you did to Gabrielle last night, which was very excellent, by the way. Remind me to buy you a palace the next time you're insulting a fire. Cliff raised his hand. And before you ask, let me tell you that Gabrielle isn't the short fellow to hold a petty, vindictive grudge and come after you in the middle of the night with a mob. Really? No, I'm lying. I'd sleep with one eye open from now on, if I were you. Thorn scowled. The next time we go running, I'm just going to leave you to drown in the mud. The day was getting worse and worse. Old Colm looked them up and down, shaking his head. By the 6 princes, I've never seen anything so pathetic. You, who won't fight a cold. You're no squeers, you're trolls. What are you? Trolls, sir, they all shouted. Say it like you mean it. We're trolls, sir. It was a well-known fact that Old Colm hated trolls. Story was that troll chieftain had ripped his leg off in a battle. Old Colm had grabbed it and used it to beat the troll to death. The weapons master waved at the bundle of unstrung boys against the wall. Now take one each. The boys looked at each other uncertainly. What are you waiting for? String him, ordered Old Colm. He handed a large iron key to one of the older boys. Tom, go get some more arrows from the armory. I reckon we'll be losing plenty over the wall. The hay target stood 200 feet away, but against the wall of the black heap and below the watching gargoyles. In the center of each bale was a red bull's eye. From where Thorn stood, it was the sign of his thumbnail. The square struggled. The bows won't bend. One sprang up, smacking the boy on his forehead. Another cried out as he cut himself on the thin bowstring. Thorn hooked the bottom of the staff around his ankle and back of his leg. The staff ran up behind his back, against his shoulders. He gripped the horn tip and bent down. The wood creaked and it pressed hard against his back. Desperate to spring back straight. With his right hand, Thorn flipped the bowstring loop over the tip, then relaxed. He plucked the taut bowstring. Ready. How did you do that? Cliff asked him as he wrestled with his own. Use your whole body to bend it, not just your arms. I get it, thanks. I'll tell you what, said Old Colm, holding the silver crown between his finger and thumb. See this? I'll give it to the first boy who scores a bullseye. Halloween's 11 days away, but the fair's already setting up on Devil's Knoll. A lot of silver in his pockets call it a fine old time of the fair, he winked. Know what I mean? The boys laughed, but there were plenty of hungry eyes on the coin. A crown was a man's weekly wage. The boys leaned up in 4 columns, each facing one of the targets. Thorn was last in line. Arrows flew, some hit the hay, others the wall, and plenty skimmed across the courtyard floor. One boy put his through his boot, and the foot within it, and was carried off to the infirmary howling. None hit the bullseye, and Old Colm's coin remained unclaimed in his pocket. Thorn reached the front. He picked a good arrow, one that was straight and as fletchy neat and smooth. He knocked it and hooked his thumb around the bowstring. "What do you think you're doing?" said Old Calm. Thorn looked down at his thumb. "This is how my dad taught me." "Oh, did he? Now tell me, Troll. Was your pa a legendary archer? Perhaps he was taught by elves, was he? Your finger's not good enough." "No, sir." Thorn blushed as the boy snickered. He rearranged his grip, holding the bowstring with his fingers, like everyone else, one above the notch, two below. "No," said Old Calm. "That won't do at all. Gather around, Trolls. Let the new boy show us how it's done. With this thumb, what do I know? I've only been teaching archery 50 years. He folds his arms. "Come on, Trolls, show me. Please teach us all how to shoot." Thorn's heart beamed rapidly, and he felt the gaze of the other boys. A few laughed, and they jostled one another. They liked it when a new boy got humiliated. Old Calm nudged them. "The target's over there." Thorn took a deep breath. He turned side on the target. He relaxed his shoulder and blocked out the giggles and noise around him. He hooked his thumb around the bowstring, raised the bow, drew the string to his chin, and saw down the line of the arrow the target a haze beyond. "Don't worry about the target," Dad will say. "Make the arrow do the worry. You just set it on its way straight and true." Thorn let the bowstring go. The arrow flew. He heard the thunk. He didn't need to look. The gasp from the boys told him everything. Bullseye. Old Calm scowled. He handed Thorn another arrow. "A fluke. Do it again." Thorn took it. There was something watching him from the steps that led to the main doors. Thorn saw a match flame and a glow settle within a pipe. Tyborn. The warm red lit his dark, hard face. The boys murmured among themselves. A few inflated their chests, and others stood straighter, all one to impress the executioner. But not Thorn. He shall do what his dad had told him. Keep your head down, don't attract attention. Stay out of trouble. Thorn's archery is what he had landed his father in so much trouble. Thorn's archery and arrogance. "I'll miss." That was the sensible, clever thing to do. Make his first shot seem like sheer luck, a fluke. Miss. Go on, just miss. Why was this so hard? The bullseye was right there, just waiting to be hit. It seemed huge. I can't miss. I don't want to miss. Why should I? Miss! Thorn nooked the second arrow, drew and loose. The arrow sailed high, well over the target. It flew upwards and towards the keep wall. It buried itself down the open throat of one of the gargoyles. It went clean in, so only the white goose feather fletching remained visible, drawn out between the gargoyle's fang. Thorn had missed, spectacularly. Glyph stared at it. They all did. "Well, I'm not going up there and getting it," murmured one of the boys. Old Calm grunted, as he thought of Fluke. "Now everyone line up. Watch Harry. He'll show you how to shoot properly." Tyborn puffed out a smoke ring and went back into his keep. While the other boys were distracted, Old Calm tossed Thorn the crown. "Here, catch. I don't know what you're up to, Troll, but I don't appreciate being made a fool." "A fool, sir? I don't understand. I missed." "Did you?" He looked up at the gargoyle. "In which case, that's the worst shot I've ever seen." Thorn drew the brush over the horse's coat. Why had he made that shot? Stupid. All it did was make everyone suspicious, especially Tyborn. Practice had gone on until well after sunup, and Thorn had made sure not to be too good, but it was too late. At breakfast, everyone was talking about two things: the poison in the fest and Thorn shooting. As soon as breakfast was over, Thorn had escaped to the stables, and that suited him fine. Thorn enjoyed grooming horses, especially ones like Thunder. His coat was so thick, so black, it held all the colors. Purples and blues and even shades of green rippled within it. They had a cart horse back home, and Thorn had spent a summer learning to ride on it. It had been equally big, 17 hands, but had been slow, docile, and not too bright. Thunder was different. Despite his size, he looked nimble enough to dance on a penny. Thorn picked out another stone from the horse's hooves. This was his sort of work, not too complicated and no surprises. As long as you fed one end and cleaned the other, you couldn't go far wrong. Out of the corner of his eye, Thorn glimpsed a squeer heading towards him. Now what? The squeer stopped a healthy distance away. "That's Thunder, isn't it? You want something?" He looked at him properly. "I met you last night, didn't I? You brought the puppy. What's your name?" "Lad." The boy was dressed in a black outfit, fancier than Thorn's. but he looked nervous, and his eyes darted about like a mouse in a kitchen. It's just that I was over at the leisure hall where the solars are. I heard Gabriel talking. He's unhappy. Of course he ain't. He probably saw himself in the mirror. He was talking about revenge for what you did to him. Thorn frowned. He hoped that Cliff had been wrong about Gabriel. No such luck. Mean little toad, ain't he? Thorn looked over at the other stable boys, all dressed in black like him. They pretended not to eavesdrop. You come over to help me, Wad. He shook his head. Don't you get it? Gabriel's going to marry Lilith Shadow. He can't risk making an enemy for future rulers. Then why are you telling me this? Come on, we all know what you did to him. Every one of us will have loved to do the same, but we're a bunch of cowards. We're not stupid, answered Wad. I'm sorry, but you're on your own. On his own. Some things never changed. How long have I got? The barn door swung open, and Gabriel and a dozen of his white-clad squares marched in. Some had cudgels, others daggers. Gabriel had his long sword out and wore a shiny steel breastplate. He saw Thorn and grinned. Not long, said Wad. Chapter 15. Think you can make a fool of me, peasant? Gabriel snarled. Think you can get away with what you did? You mean shove your face in manure? Thorn grinned. Yeah, I reckon I can. Gabriel smiled maliciously. I'm going to teach you a lesson about respecting your betters. I'm going to carve it into you so you never forget. Wad and the other stable boys were gone. No last-minute help coming from them. Gabriel's cronies blocked the door. The only thing nearby was broom, so Thorn grabbed it. Gabriel tightened his grip on his longsword. Pathetic. Thunder stomped his hooves. He whinnied and shook his head. He knew Thorn was in trouble. Get him! Ordered Gabriel. Thorn grabbed hold of the horse's mane and swung himself up, broom still in his other hand. Go, boy! Shouted Thorn, kicking his heels. The horse charged. It didn't matter that they had clubs and knives. It didn't matter that there were more than 10 of them. What mattered was that they were on foot, and Thorn was on a massive, muscular warhorse trained to trample everything in his path. 17 hands high, he was built to carry a full armored knight in battle, with hooves that could cave in skulls and teeth big enough to snap off hands. Thunder crossed a small gap between his pen and the stable doors in a second. The squeers dove aside. 2 weren't quick enough, and the horse glanced them with his shoulders, sending them tumbling. Thorn couched the broom handle under his right armpit and aimed the brush at the biggest target he could see. Gabriel. The broom smacked dead center with a defeated clang. Gabriel flew 20 feet through the air, flipping over and over like a tin chicken, then smacked down in a fresh mound of horse dung. Whoa, boy. Thorn tried to control Thunder, but the warhorse had his own ideas. Thunder spun around, searching for more enemies, and that was too much for Thorn. He wasn't a horseman. Fighting off squares with the broom and staying on was one job too many, so he fell. Soldier squares spilled out of the stables. Others got to their feet after having dived away from the charging Thunder, their white tunics filthy with mud. A couple dragged Gabriel out of the fly-infested mountain of brown stuff. His breastplate had a big broom-shaped indent in it. Get him! Yelled Gabriel, threw off into the mouth. Get him! No way was Thorn going to win this. He dragged himself up out of the mud and ran. He dashed towards a gap between tower and wall. He didn't know where he was run to, but it had to be out of the courtyard. He ran between tottering walls and leaning towers and over cumbered walls and under half-demolished bridges. Sometimes the cries of the squares faded away to almost nothing. Then suddenly he'd be at his shoulder. Thorn ran as fast as he could, not looking back into the labyrinth of paths of Castle Gloom. He ran until his legs burned and his chest ached. He found an alcove just a break in the wall and stopped to catch his breath and look around. He was totally lost. None of Castle Gloom made sense. It was a hodgepodge of buildings all in different styles from different centuries, made of marble, granite, and brick, and who knew what else. All of it ancient. Breath caught. Thorn raced on, down an alley and around. Disaster struck. Thorn hit a dead end. A wall blocked his way. It was higher, more than 50 feet, and covered in stiff black ivy. The squares were closing in. Thorn took hold of the vine. It was brittle and didn't have any idea how strong it was. It wasn't like climbing trees back home. There he could just glance at a branch and know if it would take his weight. Will they kill him? Back in the courtyard, with others standing there, someone might have stepped in to make sure things didn't get out of hand. But now, in the alleyway, with no one else around, led by a guy like Gabriel, if they catch me, I'm dead. He began to climb, as quick as he dared. A thorn jabbed into his palm, but he ignored it. He was going to get a whole lot more punctures if he stayed down in the alleyway. Thorn reached up, and his hands came down flat on the roof tiles. He pushed himself through the last few inches and slid across the roof on his belly. "He's up there!" Thorn glanced down. A group of squares stared up. He waved to them. "Hard luck, lads. You can get lost now." No one was going to risk climbing after him, not unless they were stupid. He kicked a few loose tiles off. Oops. The squares jumped as the tiles tumbled down, shattered under their feet. Then, huffing and puffing, Gabriel caught up to the squares. His eyes bulged when he saw Thorn. He shoved one of the boys against the wall. "What are you waiting for?" "It's not safe. He's throwing tiles down on our heads." "I don't care. But, my lord, what are you, scared it's not high to climb that with one hand? It's easy." "Then why don't you?" snapped the square, unable to help himself. Gabriel slapped him. "I give orders, or shall I tell my father that you didn't obey me?" The squares began to climb. Thorn picked up another broken piece of tile, dragging his fingertips along a sharp, jagged edge. He was tempted to throw it. He couldn't miss all there is to range, but these squares weren't his enemies. They were being bullied by Gabriel into coming after him, and they didn't deserve a chunk of slate in their foreheads. Thorn put it down and took off. When will they give up? The roof went on and merged with another. Clouds and gloom stretched off in all directions. A life spent climbing trees and running along both gave Thorn a sure light foot, and he moved swiftly across the roof. He dropped onto a second roof. One patch with holes in the tiles underfoot creaked. The old timber supports groaned as he stepped forwards. Not good. Thorn reached the end of his roof and realized there was a gap between it and the next. The width wasn't the problem, only about 5 feet. It was the depth, 50 feet straight down and kersplat. Maybe there's another safe route. Just then, the first of the squares reached the top. The boy shuffled warily towards him. He saw that Thorn was trapped and drew out his dagger. Thorn's heart pounded. He focused on the spot in front of him. The morning dew shone on the black slate, putting one foot in front of the other. He swung his arms to build momentum. Then he jumped. As he landed, his left foot boot slipped. His back hit the roof, knocking the wind out of him. His head cracked a few tiles, and they fell away. No, no, no. He started to slide down the roof feet first, faster and faster with each second. He dug in his heels, trying to slow himself down, but he was already going too fast, and the slope was too steep. Somewhere far below, he heard tiles smashing on the cobblestones. His stomach lurched as his feet slipped over the edge into open air. Thorn just had time to cry out before he fell off the roof. Chapter 16. How do I prove Gabriel was the poisoner? And how do I prove it before they cart me off to Prison Palace? She needed to sneak. If Uncle Pan found out that she was doing her own investigation, he'd probably keep her locked up in her room until Halloween. And if Mary did, that would be much, much worse. Anyway, that wasn't going to happen. Deviousness wasn't going to be her middle name, which was a lot better than her actual middle name. Kate. Father won't have just sat around waiting for others to sort it out. He'd have done it himself. Leading from the front, he called it. I'll be leading from the shadows. So where to begin? At the beginning. In the cellars where the wine for the feast was stored and open, Lily approached one of the servants. The boy had carried in the goblets on the night of the engagement feast. She knew that he had already been interrogated by Tyburn, but she had a few questions of her own. Hello, she said. The boy almost dropped the wine bottles when he saw her, pale and darkly dressed, standing right beside him. Looks like you've seen a ghost, said Lily. So what's your name? David. He stepped back, then bowed. Milady. David, you work here. She looked around the cellar. Plenty of the racks were rather empty-looking. That couldn't all be due to the feast, could it? Or was it Uncle Pan? Even he couldn't drink that much. Yes, milady. Good, it's just... How could she put it this way? I'm trying to work out who tried to poison me. It wasn't you, was it? Arg. David turned ashen and started shaking. That was just a joke. Of course it wasn't you. I know who it was, but just need your help proving it. Erg. Now, you can tell me. It was Gabrielle, wasn't it? Milady? Gabrielle Solar, dressed all pretty with the face of an imbecile, my fiancé? How that word made her want to vomit. Did you put something in my goblet? Milady, I don't know anything. The steward gave me the tray with the goblets already filled. I just carried it from the cellar. Ah, the steward, of course. And when is he? This time of the morning. The kitchen, milady, said David, still pale and shaken. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Lily had to admit this was more enjoyable than being stuck in a room. If it carried on like this, she'd probably be finished by lunch. Well, before Lily reached the kitchen, she heard the noise of it, pots and pans clanging in the cook bellowing orders. The smell followed, bread baking, soup shimmering, onion and garlic sizzling, and 100 other herbs and spices mixed in with the roasted meat. A maid rushed out of the kitchen door with a tray of toast and marmalade. There was a bottle of wine, too, and Lily guessed it was on its way to her uncle. She took a deep breath and entered. The cook waved her rolling pin at the baker, then the butcher, and next the boy who struggled with fresh loaves piled in his arms, as he wove between the tables and scurrying maids. She ruled the kitchen, a general in one apron. Waves of heat rippled across the floor, covering floors as oven doors do. Crashes open and slam shut. Over the spit turned two big sheep carcasses, the fat hissing as it dripped onto the coal. Now, which one was the steward? She stopped the servant as he lumbered past, a sack of flour on his back. Excuse me, but I'm looking for the... Can't you see I'm busy, girl? The man adjusted the load, he never thought he'd see the day she'd been feeding the Solars in the kin. I was just wondering... I said, he looked up and glared angrily at her. Then he froze, and the anger flipped in terror. Milady, I didn't know it was you, the steward. Where is he? Over there with the ladle. He forced us to smile onto his frightened face. What was I saying about the Solars? It's a blessing my six themselves they have such fine guests. They land at the room afterward, and I've never seen a more handsome lad than Gabrielle. Ridiculously handsome. Yes, Gabrielle is certainly ridiculous. Lady Lily replied. She spotted the steward and left the servant with the flour. The steward was testing the soup, sipping delicately from one iron ladle. Morning, said Lily, as brave as she could. The steward spluttered. Milady! Why had everyone stopped working? She tried to ignore all eyes upon her. Devious. She had to think devious and subtle. First, she needed to put him at ease. She wasn't entirely sure how to speak with servants, but it won't be that hard, could it? Nice weather we're having, isn't it? For this time of the year, and those socks you're wearing pure lamb's wool. I bet they must keep your toes very snug. The steward stared at her socks and back at her. His expression was pained. My socks, my lady. This was working out brilliant. Now perhaps she'll pay him a compliment. Yes, to gain his trust. I love what you've done with your hair. Lily pointed out of the few tufts around his ears. Simple yet elegant. My hair. There, she had his complete confidence. So I was wondering about last night. You didn't happen to see try to poison me, did you? The ladle dropped from his fingers and clanged on the flagstone floor. Lily paused. That seemed rather guilty, didn't it? She pressed her fingertips together and put on her hardest stare. She had often faced it from her father when she was caught making trouble, and she always crumbled under his cold gray gaze. Now it was time for her to try. You seem very nervous. Is there anything you want to tell me? Was he in on the poison? Gabrielle wasn't the sort of person to do his own dirty work, but when he could get a minion to do it for him, maybe he paid the steward to pour the poison into her goblet. Yes, all the pieces were falling into place. Lily bet if she went into his room she'd find a bag of Luminin servants hidden under his bed. Perhaps he was still working for Gabrielle after all. Poisoning had failed yesterday. He might try again, and one better at breakfast. She looked suspiciously at the soup. Lilith's shadow! Uh-oh. Mary bustled through the watching cooks and servant girls. One had dragged Weeping David, the other hand clasping the usual red ledger. Lily turned to the steward. I'll do this with you in a minute. She spun around to face Mary. Do you sleep with that book? I use it as a pillow, said Mary, unapologetically. She pulled David up. What have you been doing saying to this poor boy? Nothing. So didn't you accuse him of trying to poison you? Of course not. Lily glanced over the tremble and Stewart. Not him, anyway. Mary let go of David and rubbed her temples. I can feel it coming on one of my special headaches. You're going to be the death of me, my girl. Lily took Mary's arm and pulled her to one side. Shh, she whispered. Don't tell anyone, but I think I know who killed Custard. Mary clutched the ledger to her chest. You do? Right here, in this room. Lily shouted, tilted her slightly. It's him, the steward. Mary opened her mouth to speak, then shut it, then opened it, then grabbed Lily by the collar. Ow, you're choking me. Come on, we're leaving. But what about him? Lily said loudly, pointing first at the steward that had a big pot on the stove. For all we know, he's poisoned the soup. Mary spun around and glared at the steward. Have you? No, Mary, of course not. Satisfied, Mary? Lily glowered. Of course he's going to say that. Mary snatched a spoon out of cook's hand and filled the soup. Mary, don't, Lily warned. Mary swallowed. She grimaced. Lily gasped. What's the matter? Did he poison in it? Worse, oh no. She didn't want Mary to die. Garlic, Mary. She waved the spoon at the steward. Did I not tell you that the Earl doesn't want garlic? It gives him fierce wind. How is it going to be? I'm sitting at the table next to the Duke's son when he can't control these weak bowels of his. She flung the spoon at him. There would be war, so the soup wasn't poisoned. Maybe Lily had been wrong about the steward. She decided to take her leave. There was still plenty of investigation to be done. Better she go quickly so as not to interrupt. But Mary must have had eyes in her back of her head. You stay right there. I'm Lady Shadow, you know, said Lily, trying to reclaim some dignity. You cannot order me around. Mary stood up on her tiptoes so that the two of them were almost eye to eye. She put her stubby forefinger on Lily's nose. Did you say something? Or was that a mouse squeaking? Lily decided not to say anything more. Now listen to me, Lily. Mary's voice dropped to a low and malevolent whisper. You'll go straight back to your rooms. You'll stop bothering my staff, and you'll leave this business to the likes of Tyburn. Do I make myself clear? She raised a hand before Lily could answer. No, don't speak, just nod. Lily nodded. Good girl, now go. Chop, chop. Mary inhaled deeply through her flared nostrils. Then she gazed around the silent kitchen and clapped once. What are you all gawking? Get back to work. Chapter 17. Lily stomped back and forth in her bedroom. Her boots beating hard on the vast mosaic that covered the floor. She stopped in the face of her ancestors, Baal Demon Scourge, a sorcerer who had to oversee the construction of the Great Hall. Why couldn't she be more like Baal? Even the lords of hell had feared him. Who feared her? No one. Instead, Mary ordered her about like some scholarly maid. Lily kicked her chair. It wasn't just Mary. No, there was Duke Solar too, and Uncle Pan. She well thought her own uncle tried to help her, but he was just like the rest. They wanted Lily to sit quietly, look pretty, and not make a fuss. They didn't want a ruler. They wanted a silly little girl. Lily threw herself onto her bed. What can I do? She stared at the ceiling of the painted dancing skeletons and ghosts looming over tombs and gravestones. Zombies, of course. So many of them. Count the bones. Her mother often told her to do that when she couldn't sleep. That's what they wanted. For her to stay here and do nothing. Sleep and sleep until her wedding day. Wasn't there some story about a princess who slept 100 years, waiting for her prince? What one idiot. Lily jumped up. I need another plan. She wasn't going to give up. Maybe, just maybe, it hadn't been Gabrielle. But if not him, then who? Lily went to her desk. She will make a list of suspects. Start there, then investigate each person until she figured out who was the poisoner. She pulled out a sheet of parchment and dipped her quill into the ink. There was a tap on the door. Go away, I'm busy! She posted a nib over the parchment. She needed a name to go on the top. The door opened a crack. Hello? It was Rose, carrying a tray. I brought you a nice meal. I've got lamb broth, some fresh bread, and I thought you might like some chocolate. With all that's been going on. I said I'm busy. She couldn't think of anything to put on the list. Not a single person. Maybe she wasn't clever enough to do this. Maybe she was just a silly little girl everyone wanted her to be. No, that can't be true. I wasn't allowed it. Rose put the tray down beside her. But, milady, you need... Lily flung her arms across the desk, hurling the tray and all its contents across the room. I am busy. I just thought, snapped the lady, fury washing over. You thought, Rose. You quick. Write that down in the castle history. Rose thought. I'm sorry, my lady, Rose curtsied. I'll clean up this mess and go. Why am I here with her? She hasn't done anything wrong. Lily blushed with shame. I'm so sorry, Rose. Let me help. That won't be right. Leave it to me. I don't mind. Stand up, Rose. Lily spoke firmly, but more gently this time. She took Rose's hand and raised her so they faced each other. They both had pale skin and black hair. Rose had black blood. That's what they called it. Somewhere Rose's family passed, there was a shadow ancestor, but fate had made Lily ruler of Gehenna and Rose a servant. Sit down, said Lily, pointing to the chair by the dressing table. My lady. Only if you like to. Rose frowned, then slowly walked over to the dressing table and sat down meekly with her palms on her lap. Lily picked up the chocolate, unwrapped it, and broke it in half. Go on. I can't. Come on, Rose. When was the last time you had chocolate? Your 10th birthday. Mary let me lick the spoon she used to make her cake. She looked longingly at the dark brown block. All right, just a nibble. 3 years ago. No, not just a nibble. Lily put the half slab in Rose's palm. They sat and ate. Lily watched how Rose's eyes widened when she took her first bite, heard Rose's groan of pleasure when the cocoa and sugar melted in her mouth. Why doesn't it taste that good to me? I haven't waited 3 years for it. Now that you've eaten my chocolate, you owe me something, said Lily. Rose looked frightened. Lily met her gaze of steel. This is important, Rose. Do you understand? Too scared to speak, Rose nodded. You mustn't call me Lily. She put up her head before Rose school protest. Lily, say it. Lily, they both laughed. Rose galloped around the room. You should have seen him, Lily. She swung a hairbrush left and right, charged straight at them on the back of Tyburnt's horse. She neighed and galloped around the room a second time. Thorn rode Thunder? Lily couldn't believe it. How? No idea, but 1 minute he was surrounded by Gabrielle and the Squeers, and the next they're being chucked this way and that. I saw it all from the storeroom door. She swept her hairbrush. Thwack. Thorn hit Gabrielle right center and sent her flying on her feet in the air. I swear he did. She collapsed on Lily's bed. It was brilliant. That Thorn's a boy of mystery, said Lily. He rode Thunder. Really? And you've seen that arrow on the gargoyle? The one with the broken ear? You mean Chip. Rose nodded. Thorn did that. They said it was a lucky shot. Right after he hit a bullseye, no one's that lucky. And what were you doing up so early in the courtyard? Rose blushed. Mary, she needed some fresh flour from the storeroom. It's not my fault that's when the Squeers do their training. She grinned. And it's the summer when it gets too hot. They all take their shirts off. Rose, I'm shocked, Lily laughed. You're a woman of mystery yourself. She leaned closer. Any particular one you have your eye on? Rose looked down shyly before confessing. Finn, he's a guard at the Skeleton Gate. I know what you mean, Lily nodded. Big, friendly, not too bright, good choice. Rose suddenly became serious. People don't notice servants. That don't mean we don't do nothing. Was that a dig at Lily? It was true. There had been plenty of times when Lily had forgotten that Rose was standing right next to her. A shadow of a shadow. What is it? I don't know. There's only us two here, Rose. Rose sat up. It's about the feast. What about it? I was there, Lily. I was mostly busy keeping Bear and Sable's flagon filled, but I was there. And no one noticed, including me. What do you see? Rose looked anxious. I haven't told anyone. I didn't because who will believe a servant over a duke's son? This is about Gabrielle? He's evil, Lily, really evil. You need to watch out for him. Lily laughed. Gabrielle's a stupid fool. It was the crystal cup, said Rose. I saw what you did when you went off and danced with the Sultan's boy. What did he do? He put something in your cup, Lily. Lily caught her breath. I told them from the beginning, and they didn't believe me. Lily stared. Are you sure? Totally sure? Rose nodded. It was Gabrielle who tried to poison you. Chapter 18. I hate this place. Really, truly hate it. Every cobweb and every stone, even the sound of it. The way the air moaned out of the secret vents and the echoes that decayed like the breath of old men. Castle Gloom was unnatural, hard, and lifeless. The opposite of the world that Thorn had grown up in. Instead of a forest of great leaf-wrapped trees, there are endless calm corridors all over in dust. Instead of soft grass and moss, there's hard, dead marble. Instead of sparrows, falcons, pigeons, kingfishers, crows, and a canopy filled with birds, there were bats, bats, and more bats. And Castle Gloom went on and on, forever. He hadn't encountered any zombies, which was good, but he hadn't found a way out, which was bad. He fell off one of the roofs and right through another, knocking himself out in the process. He lay among the broken beams and shattered tiles for hours, and only woken after dusk. No sign of Gabriel and his cronies, fortunately. They must have seen him fall and assumed he had broken his neck. Bruises and cuts covered his body, but amazingly he hadn't suffered anything worse. Thorn's head was thicker than most. There had been no way to climb out of the hole in the roof, so he had gone exploring instead. That was hours ago. Thorn clawed through walls of cobwebs and wandered through corridors thick with untrodden dust. He strayed down hallways where the faded faces and the portraits seemed to move in their frames to watch him go by. Once or twice, strange sounds had reverberated from somewhere hidden and dark, and his heart raced, his hands clammy. He'd hurried on to the next vault chamber. It was obvious to him by now that the largest section of the castle was empty, except for the moaning wind and him. And, of course, the bats. A slice of moonlight shone through the collapsed steel way high overhead. Bats flew in and out of cracks in castle walls and waves. Their wings fluttered in that uneven, frantic way that bats flew, as if they were really sure about this whole wing thing. What was the point of bats? Thorn was lonely, aching and starting to feel weak from hunger. Will anyone come looking for me? Old Calm, Tyborn, maybe even Lady Shadow? Don't be daft. They won't waste their time on nobody. So Thorn sat down, weary to his core. Everything had gone wrong. The more he tried, the worse it got. Ever since that day, he had gone hunting along in Hearn's forest. It seemed so long ago and so far away, like it had happened to someone else. The nobles called it poaching. He called it not starving. 1 deer. That's all he had taken. A 2-year-old doe. No one will miss her. He'd been proud of the shot. Late in the evening with poor light and plenty of foliage in the way. A distance of over 100 yards, and hit true at a target smaller than his plan. After that, one disaster after another. You can't beat him. Maybe he was one of life's losers. Just give up. The bats circled above him, shrieking hideously. They came and went as they wanted, in and out of the broken roofs, through the vents and into the sky. If they can get them, so could he. Thorn gritted his teeth and rose to his feet. He had shown everyone. He showed the royals that even if they had their castle magic, he had more. Jewels and shining swords didn't mean much down here, not as much as guts. The roof openings were too high up, and climbing the dark was beyond stupid. You need to find one opening lower down. There, a break in the wall. He watched as bats swooped into it. He peered in. It was dark, but he could hear the echoes of beating wings. Thorn found a tapestry ripped into streams. He tied them into a bundle around a broken chair leg, and, after a few moments of striking his pocket flint against the floor slab, created a small fire. The cloth took a while to catch, but eventually had a smoking torch, good for an hour or two, he reckoned. He slipped through the crack. He shimmied sideways and downwards until he found himself in the crooked passage. He passed tall black statues of hooded men, horned demons, and skull-faced women. The stone creaked, and Thorn's heart beat faster. Where was he? Below the foundation of the castle? The walls were crowded, bare rock, and the chambers were natural caves rather than brick-built walls. The floor was pitted with shallow pools and boulders. Stalactites hung from above, some as sharp and fine as needles. Others with their base thicker than oak tree trunks. Bats swooped among them. The air trembled. A breeze, strong and earthy with the smell of damp fur, blew over him, causing the torch flame to waver and smoke. Something about him hissed. It let out a long, wakened breath that made the hairs on the back of Thorn's neck rise. A shape moved forwards, overhead. Thorn lifted his torch. The light shone on one of the huge spikes of dark stone above him. Water trickled down over its folds and crevices. and Thorn saw it move. Bristles stood up along it, and it shook. That ain't no pillar. And unfurled its sail-sized wings. The creature shivered and droplets of water showered down on Thorn. The wings kept opening, a dozen feet wide and not half open, then 20 or more. Thorn moved behind a boulder, Hunter quiet. His eyes never leave the weak monster. Black eyes open and mouth wide to reveal saber-like fangs. A fetid breath stank of things long dead. It snapped its jaws and one bite swallowed a host of smaller bats. It sniffed the air through its flared nostrils. Stalagmites had begun to form upon it, long strands of limestone that cracked and splintered as it loosened itself. How long had it slept to become encased like that? Decades? Centuries? It jumped down. Despite its immense size, it landed with barely sound, and lapped water from a pool. Thorn stood utterly motionless, staring. The fur on his back was as spiky as pine needles, and its wings were oily black and lined with veins. Thirst quenched. It raised its head and surged with its high-pitched shriek. It's still hungry. Snacking on the small bats wasn't going to fill its belly, not after a long hibernation. Thorn crouched a little lower in his hiding place. The bat was big enough to swallow him whole. The monster beat its wings, the leather skin like sails catching the wind. It needs to get out and hunt. But how? The bat was gigantic. Its body was over a dozen feet long, and each wing stretched at least 50. The bat turned around, its ears twisted in all directions. Thorn could see long old scars through the fur on its back. It's looking for a path to the sky. The bat's attention locked onto a deep, crooked tear in the chamber ceiling. Was that an opening? The bat flapped its wings and rose to its claw tips. Thorn was a few feet behind it. His heart beat like it had never beaten before. He was terrified and yet thrilled. The bat shrieked again, louder and clear. It was a declaration. This has to be the stupidest plan of them all. But stupid is better than none. He had to decide right now, stay and find his own way out, or hitch a lift. The bat beat its wings harder and hovered a few feet off the ground. It's leaving. It's now or never. Thorn leaped on just as the bat launched upwards. Chapter 19. Thorn dug his fingers into the bat's fur as he slammed against it and hung on for all he was worth. The bat shot upwards. Thorn screamed as it swooped along the chamber ceiling, weaving in and between the jagged stalactites. This is insane! The bat threw itself in wild directions, tumbling and spinning as it tried to shake him off. Thorn flattened himself against a hairy back, smothering his face into the thick, stinky fur. Faster and faster raced the long, secret path through the underground halls and caverns. It shrieked and Thorn heard its thundering echoes. Sometimes they hit him almost instantly, meaning the rock was close. Other times the sound returned after a few seconds, telling him the walls were farther away. He hung on, listening and praying. Then, suddenly, the echoes didn't return at all. Thorn opened his eyes. He saw a flash of stars in the darkness ahead. Sky. It was sky. He just had time to gasp as the bat burst out of the cave. It accelerated with every beat of his massive wings, now fully unfurled. Thorn's heart filled his throat as the bat flapped, rising higher and higher towards the moon. Could he fly all the way there? It's a wild thought, but before he could urge it on, the monster peaked, arched backwards, and tucked in his wings. For a moment they paused in the sky. Then they plummeled back towards the earth. Thorn gripped tighter and felt the bat's heartbeat thumping against him. His own heart seemed ready to burst with the sheer force of it all. The ground rushed towards them. Then the bat threw out his wings and skimmed over trees. His claws brushed the top. Despite the icy wind biting his face, Thorn grinned. He's faster than the wind. Spindlewood. We've come out of Spindlewood. Could we fly all the way home? Over the woods and see it into the morning sun? Or somewhere to the east. But the bat had its own ideas about where it wanted to go, and moments later they swooped over Castle Gloom. They flew across the battlement and the petrified soldiers between spindle towers and smoky chimney pots. Wind tore at Thorn's face, biting cold but fresh and free. With a twitch of its left wing, the bat banked towards the animal pens. A stink hung over the large courtyard, where there was a central patch of thick mud where the pigs lay. The cows were in the sheds, where the sheep roamed with the fence square. The bat hissed and plunged. It smashed the fence into splinters and piled into the panic-stricken flock. For the second time that day, Thorn was thrown off his mount. He smacked among the sheep, reducing his world to spin in sky and hooves and smelly wool. The sheep was panicking and he got kicked in the mouth. "Get off me!" The sheep weren't listening. They trampled over him, eyes wide with terror as they searched the gap into the shattered fence. Bruised, bleeding, and a mouthful of wool, Thorn let himself collapse. "I've just ridden a giant bat." He grinned. "I bet even high mighty Tyburn hasn't done anything like that." Then a sour, trembling thought bumbled up. Giant bat. Giant, hungry bat. Sheep. Drat. Grouching, still not too sure on his legs, Thorn struggled to his feet. A sheep bled before the bat sank his fangs into his own body. The bat lifted it up and grinded his jaws, devouring it whole. Suddenly the sky was filled with bats. Bats poured out of every doorway, every chimney and vent and crack. They rose from the broken roofs of the abandoned buildings, and cloud of them descended from witch towers. Not in thousands, but in hundreds of thousands. Thorn watched in awe as they circled above the giant bat like an ebony halo. All animals had a pecking order, one alpha, a top dog. But he'd never seen anything like this. They've come to greet their king. The giant bat hissed and grabbed another sheep, holding it down with his claws and ripping off its head. How shadow soldiers came running with spears and crossbows and faced with white with horror. Thorn ran in front of them, hands raised. "Don't shoot! Don't shoot!" The soldiers aimed at the bat. "Don't shoot!" Thorn shoved one of the soldiers back. The bat turned to face the line of soldiers and widened his mouth, revealing his bloody fangs and hissing out of warning. It swatted a pair of spearmen aside with a flick of its wings. "Put your weapons away!" shouted Lady Shadow as she raced across the flagstone, waving furiously. "Put your weapons away!" Spears dropped and fingers came off the crossbow triggers. The bat picked out his third sheep. Lady Shadow stopped, panting and flushed. "So, Thorn," she stared at the bat, her eyes as big as the moon. "Who is your new friend?" Chapter 20. "His name is Hades," said Lily, pointing at the name written on the wrinkled page of an old family diary. She could barely contain her excitement. It hadn't even been 1 hour since Thorn had flown in, and now she sat at the desk in her study with Thorn, Old Calm, Tyburn, and Pan gathering around it. "It means King of the Underworld." "That fits," said Thorn. Lily tapped a small leather-bounded book. "This is the diary of my great-great-grandfather, Faustus Shadow. He kept Hades as a pet." Thorn's brow crest. "A pet?" "Faustus was a famous alchemist. He experienced on Hades, growth potions, extended life span. You too, it seemed." She flipped to another page. "See here? 20 years ago. So everyone assumed he died. But it just turned out he was just hibernating." Old Calm sat tapping his wooden leg on the flagstone. He always did that when he was worried about something. "You're full of surprises, aren't you, troll?" he said to Thorn. Pan dabbed his hoodie forehead. 20 sheep that monster ate. 12 will have to buy more. Mary will throw a fit." He helped himself to his third glass of wine in as many minutes. "Where is Hades now, Master Calm?" Lily asked. "Mer call him, lady. He settled down for sleep." Then he growled to Thorn. "So what happened, troll?" "I got lost," he answered. Old Calm grimaced. "I heard you got in a fight with Duke Solar's son." "I got lost, looking for the privy, sir." That sounded like a big, fat lie. She knew it, and so did the others. "That'll be all," said Pan. "You may go, boy. You too, Master Calm." "What about my bat?" said Thorn. "The animal's too dangerous," said Pan. "Today I ate some sheep. What if a village child next time? Or the sixth forbidden, one of the Solars?" "Like Gabrielle," said Lily hopefully. Then she got Pan's not amused at all look and sunk down into her chair, which will be really, really tragic. "The best thing to do is kill the beast," Pan declared. "Tyburn, deal with it." "You're not hurting my bat," said Thorn, stepping up to the executioner. Tyburn merely looked down at the boy. Lily smiled at Thorn bravely, and stupidly. "Hades is one of the families," said Lily. "We look after our own." Thorn frowned. Thank you, milady. Lily almost laughed, but saw that Thorn was trying hard to act properly. She returned his politeness with a small curtsy. You're welcome. There's plenty of information in the diary about how to care for Hades. You and I will go through it later. With that, all calm, Thorn left. Pan slammed the door and glared at Lily. Stay away from that boy. He's nothing but trouble. Someone needs to be on Thorn's side. What does that mean? I'm not going to let Gabrielle hurt him, said Lily. Gabrielle Solar isn't a fool, said Tyburn. If Thorn can't outwit Gabrielle, then he really is of no use to anyone. Tyburn, that almost sounds like a compliment. The boy's likable and has many useful qualities. Useful qualities, repeated Lily. That was too much fun. The whole castle was in an uproar. Every shadow squeer wanted to be Thorn's best friend. He just rode in a giant bat. I think that counts as rather fantastic, don't you? Still, we can't deal with Thorn and Hades later. She looked around the room, double-checking that it was just the three of them now. I want to talk about what Rose told me. She saw Gabrielle put poison in my cup. Uncle, what more proof do we need? Pan shook his head. This again. You cannot be serious. This isn't about the Solar trying to take over Gehenna, Uncle. I'm very serious. She'll never let that happen. She heard that the Solars were already hiring stonemason to put in windows. Never. Lily will not be remembered as the shadow who lit light into castle gloom. Lily, be reasonable. Why will Gabrielle want or need to do such a thing? But she saw him. Who knows what that silly girl saw? Pan grunted. In the world of mere servant against a hair of Lumina, no one will believe her. If the Duke was here, he demanded she be whipped for her impertinence. No one touches Rose. Lily wasn't given up. I don't see why her word means less than Gabrielle's or anyone's when it's the truth. Gabrielle's evil. He tried to poison me, and he tried to have Thorn killed. Wat told me that Gabrielle had his squares chasing Thorn with knives, Uncle. Pan scuffed. As I said, that Thorn is nothing but trouble. Tyburn shook his head. Gabrielle is not the poisoner. Why not? She asked. He lacks the gill. Are you quite sure? It's my job to be sure, my lady. Pan folds his arms and considers the executioner. Then who is the mysterious poisoner? The man had been hunted for the last 5 months. The 6th Brigade. It was as if a cold hand had seized Lily's lungs. It was squeezing the breath out of her. The pain grew every second as the agony of her family's death became fresh all over again. Pan swallowed his wine. You must be long gone by now, Tyburn. Lily's hand shook. Despite the crushing tightness in her chest, she forced herself to speak. 6 men responsible for killing my parents and a brother, Uncle. We found 5. Let Tyburn finish. Your father's carriage was ambushed in Spindlewood. Why will brigands give such a spot? There's little traffic in that part of the woods. Little chance of rich merchant or well-to-do farmer traveling through. No, there are better places with richer pickings. Tyburn met her gaze. She knew he'd been loyal to her father, but there was no emotion in the man's eyes. No sense of loss or pain. Lily learned away. Tyburn continued. They were there on purpose, not to rob, but to kill the shadows. No mere brigade will risk taking on sorcerers as powerful as your father. It will have to be something special. Lily whipped around. They're assassins, you're saying? Her eyes flashed as the idea sunk in. A special kind, but you caught 5 and took care of them. That doesn't sound so special to me. 5 were pawns, I think. Mere hired hands. The 6th one thought he was injured by an arrow but escaped. We searched Spindlewood with troops and hounds and we found nothing. No trails, no marks of this passing. Tyburn paused, resting his hand on his sword hilt. The shadows were heavier than faint candlelight, dipping into wrinkles and creases in his face. I have spent moons searching and still haven't found nothing. No man has ever evaded me for so long. It was sloppy of you to let him get away in the first place. Pan's hands tightened around the goblet. I gave you extra men to make sure they were dealt with properly. And you think the 6th Brigade and our poisoner are one and the same? Asked Lily. Tyburn didn't answer immediately. He seemed to be weighing his response. Lily knew he didn't like to guess. Most likely. He will have had to lie low to recover from his air wounds. That will account for the last 2 months. Now he's back to finish the job. Remember, milady, you're supposed to be in that carriage, too. You're meant to be killed alongside the rest of your family. Pan put his hand gently on her back. Enough, Tyburn. Can't you see you're upsetting her? No, it's all right. I need to know this. Lily stared at her hands, clenched fiercely in fist. I want to help, she said. I want to know who this man is. I shall... Pan squeezed her shoulders. Leave this to Tyburn, Lily. They are my family. I owe this to them, Uncle. Pan spoke to Tyburn. Do you think he's still nearby? Near enough to put the life band in the goblet during the fest. I have questioned the very servants. They weren't listening to her. They weren't going to let her do anything. After 5 months, she thought her heart had started to heal, but hearing about the man responsible for killing her loved ones had torn it apart again. She had to find it, but she knew she'd get no help from Tyburn and Uncle Pan. It's time to stop playing by rules, so now she needed to break them, starting with the biggest one of all.